Hi guys, I'm Linda.
And I'm Vicky.
And we are Partners in Crime. Today we are going to dive into Cold Episode 7. But before we do that, we have some Jennifer Dulos updates.
Right. And it seems that surveillance footage was released of Fotis and Michelle Troconis driving around, putting trash in different receptacles around the area.
Mm-hmm. It was another town though, wasn't it?
I think it was in Hartford.
Yeah. It was kind of far from where they lived.
But as we said before, law enforcement was able to get items out of those trash receptacles and found clothing items that had Jennifer's blood on it, other items that had Jennifer's blood on it. Now, Michelle's attorney, I believe his name is Schoenhorn, is trying to say that just because she was in the car, and it's evident that she was in the car.
There was video of her just reaching out. I saw that one. Not necessarily get out, but we did see her reaching out.
And that's what he's claiming. She didn't get out of the car.
Yeah.
And, and he thought because they don't have, in his opinion, they don't have strong enough evidence to have such a harsh bail requirement on her. She is required to have ankle monitor, GPS monitor. She can't leave the area. Just a lot of restrictions that he doesn't feel that she should have.
So she's at home confinement at this point?
She's home confinement. She was in jail, but I think because of COVID, they let her have house arrest.
Okay.
And, she is charged with conspiracy to commit murder, and he just doesn't believe that that's enough evidence to do that. Now, the other person is popping up that we didn't really mention before.
We didn't, no.
Is this Kent Mawani?
I don't know how to say that. Mohieny.
Yes.
Money, we'll just say money.
Yeah. He is an attorney, and he was very close with Fotis. And they're saying that he is also charged with conspiracy to commit murder. Police had found what they're calling an alibi script.
Okay.
And the script is detailed hour by hour of comments, and Kent is mentioned in there as well as to what they were doing on the days that she disappeared and the following day. They found this script in the trash.
Wow. Okay.
So because of that, and they have evidence that he did meet with them on the day that she disappeared, so that was on 5/23.
He met with both Fotis and Michelle?
Yeah, well, I know Fotis.
Fotis, okay.
I'm not sure about Michelle.
Okay.
And she went missing on the 20th, I believe, May 20th.
I don't remember.
But anyway, between those dates, the 20th and the 23rd, they have the phone calls that Kent made, their conversation, regarding this, and the fact that, this alibi script was found, and those days were mentioned. So, what else can I tell you about him? Oh, and then when Fotis committed suicide, or attempted suicide, he left a note saying that Kent and Michelle had nothing to do with the disappearance of his wife. So the attorney wants to admit that into evidence.
Mm.
And meanwhile, Kent Mawini, is
We're having a hard
facing,
time with names.
I always do, he is facing a previous sexual assault charge.
Mm.
So, this case is much bigger than that sexual assault charge.
Yeah.
I think they'll put that on the back burner. That has to do with being in Hartford as well.
Okay.
I don't know the details of that sexual assault case.
Okay.
So that's basically what we have on them. There is an October 1st hearing, and it's a bail hearing again,
Okay.
because for Michelle.
Got it.
This attorney wants to try to get the house arrest removed. He's saying that she can't work, that the ankle monitor is bruising her ankle. So they're going to, try whatever they can to get her off the house arrest.
Yeah.
But these are pretty serious charges, so
Yeah.
I don't know. She's lucky she's out of jail.
Mm-hmm.
So
She wouldn't have been, I guess, if COVID didn't hit.
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so. I haven't read that anywhere,
Right.
but that could very well be.
Okay.
And that's basically all I have on that right now.
Yeah, it's good information.
It's just an update because, we mention it and then we don't hear anything for a while.
Right.
So we'd like to update you with whatever we've heard.
Whenever anything comes out.
Right, and this is the latest information that I've seen. I haven't seen anything else right
Okay.
now.
All right. And now we're going to turn our attention over to Cold Episode 7, and it's Scouring the Desert, it's called. When it starts out, it is talking about a Christmas party, a Wells Fargo Christmas party, because that's where Susan worked, and she was there with Josh because they did have all of the workers and their significant others there, their family members there. So it was December of 2008, so it was a year before she went missing. And she was there with her friend Amber Hardman and her husband Scott, so they were sitting around the same place at the table, and they were talking about how they like to watch true crime stories and CSI, and they just binge watched 24. And Josh had something peculiar to say about hiding a body. Well, these TV shows, they don't do it right. They have it right there so you can find them. He's like, if I was going to hide a body, I'd do it in the desert. There's so many mines, abandoned mines out there. So that's where this abandoned mine came into play.
Right.
Susan,
I'm sorry.
no, go ahead.
We had mentioned that comment that he made in a previous video.
Yeah.
But now this is the context in which
He did say
conveyed
this.
that information.
Right. He did also, Susan wanted Amber to talk to her husband, Scott, to try to get them to spend some time together, but Scott didn't want to have anything to do with it. After he spent time with Josh at the party, he was just like, nope.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Josh was, according to Susan's friends, very loud. He was the one that would talk the loudest. He was the one that kept talking, would let other people talk. So this was just his personality, and anybody that didn't agree with him, he took issue with.
He had an argument with them about
yeah,
it.
we've heard that before on many occasions. So that was a big thing about Josh, and
Well, the police, followed up on his lead by giving that comment about the mines. And they did search hundreds of mines
right.
in this area, in this part of the desert. And they used special equipment. They had special cameras in case it was a deep mine.
Right.
Nobody would have to, go down there.
Because it's scary, and there's a lot that can happen.
Right.
Yeah.
So they had these cameras that could spin and go deep, and they were thorough about searching these mines.
Yeah.
And apparently, it wasn't anything.
Right. And Josh, 10 months before Susan went missing, he actually introduced was not introduced. He was very interested in camping in the desert. So he was always going there. They were taking rides out there. I know the one time Susan said they were out there and she didn't think they were going to make it back. Cell phone service was done. The road was very rugged. She was afraid they were going to get stuck out there, and they didn't have a cell phone because there weren't any signals. But they did wind up coming back. The one thing that they did find in that trip was called Topaz Mountain, which is really cool. She said that you can actually, when you dig, you can find real topaz out there. So I thought that was really cool.
Right.
But that was just something that he started doing.
Isn't that also the area where the geodes were found? Where if you crack it open.
Yes.
There's crystal in there.
Yeah, the springs. I forget what the first name is, but I said it in our previous video.
Right.
Something springs.
I forget.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because it brings up Charlie's little interview when they ask. He told them his mother was with them when they went on their camping trip, and the detective said, "Where is your mother then? Or where did your mother go?" And he said, "She's where the crystals are."
And the flowers.
So, is there a correlation? Could very well be.
Yeah, Charlie did say that Mommy, the interviewer asked him, was Mommy happy? And he said yes, Mommy was happy, and she wanted to stay there because it was so beautiful. And I'm trying to think, okay, this is a little 5-year-old or 4 or 5-year-old talking about, and his mommy was happy. So are we to surmise that she was there, she wanted to just explore a little bit more, and maybe Josh said, I'm going to go over here with the boys, and she said, oh, no, I want to stay here, it's really pretty.
Right.
Or could he have given her some hallucinogenic? I was thinking that, and that's why she was kind of like in a state, because then the boys wouldn't have feared anything because their mom was happy.
Or was he thinking of another time?
That could be. They did
went.
say that is definitely a possibility.
It's just not reliable. Because he
Yeah.
was so little. But
Yeah. The only thing is, in this specific episode, they do go into a lot of detail about where they searched, and we're not going to really delve into it. There's so much information there, but please listen to the episode yourself if you're interested in the specific areas. Obviously, nothing came out of that. The one thing that I take from this, they said Josh was pretty lazy, and he really wasn't fit. And it leads me to believe everybody's looking out in the desert, and could this be something that he kind of went out there a lot just to take them off the scent? I know that's the wrong way to say it, but so they wouldn't think about somewhere closer, because he was lazy. And if he needed Susan to be done away with, I know Charlie says that about the pretty crystals, and his mom wanted to stay there. Could it have been something that they're looking in these mines and everything? Could it have been something that was not as hard to find, but they were really looking for somewhere hard to find her? I don't know. That just strikes me as, because he is lazy and he would have had a hard time really pulling her anywhere far. We did hear in the previous episode that he did have a shoulder injury after.
yeah.
He said it was because of a car accident he had like a year before,
Right,
6
right.
months to a year before. So that could be from that. They did, though, say that the acetylene torch that he did have could have cut through the rebar that closed off some mines. They put rebar in mines so people wouldn't go in them, the abandoned mines, and they did say this could have cut through there. So, could it have been an abandoned mine that he could have cut the rebar, just put her right there? Because they said it's very hard to search in these mines. They're very dark, There could be water as soon as you walk in. It could collapse on you.
Right, dangerous.
Yes,
Very
you
dangerous.
won't be able to see. It's very dark. The oxygen levels can be very small, so it'd be hard to breathe in them. I don't think Josh is the kind of person that's going to put his own life at stake. Yes, he did kill him and his children, but at that point, was he expecting anybody to look into him?
I think so. And you know what? He was very smart.
Mm.
They even have encrypted drives that they took from his home that they can't break the encryption that he developed, so no one can get into that information.
Okay.
You know, he was a smart guy, so maybe he was throwing them off his trail by mentioning that she could have a body in the mines. You know, maybe not.
Yeah.
Maybe it's closer to home than they think. There was other searches done. Her friends and family conducted their own search, and the police didn't. What's the word? They didn't encourage that because there's a liability if someone could get hurt, and then they'd be responsible. But they were also in the desert doing their own search, and there was even rivers, I guess, that they were looking into.
Yeah, it was, actually this came from psychics. So sometimes you have psychics always coming out of the woodwork whenever you have something like this happen. So they did start, they said that they had a tip, or that they had a feeling that things were happening around the northwest shoreline of Utah Lake. So they did get Paulette from, I forget her company, but she has a search and rescue
With
dog.
the dogs, yes.
Her dog's name is Murphy.
We remember the dog, but we don't remember.
Yeah.
Typical.
So Murphy actually did catch a whiff of a cadaver scent behind a new subdivision, because this shoreline of Utah Lake is close to a subdivision of homes that Josh had two for sale.
Oh yeah, he was a realtor for a while.
Right before she disappeared. So they said that there was a second, so the dogs were around the shoreline, so they were close to this subdivision. There were two houses that Josh had for sale. They had these people that were looking at both houses. They took one of the houses. The first house they went to, though, they said they needed to get out of the house. It reeked of rotten food or a dead animal. They said they had to get out of there or they would have been sick. So that is closer to home. And these things, who knows, maybe that's what he did. He actually...
Right, and I know the dogs, at least in the initial search that they used, didn't have her exact scent. They didn't have any item of hers to use for them to focus on or pick up on. But they did have, they were trained for cadavers.
Yes.
So any scent like that, they could certainly trace.
And it doesn't have to be a body. It could be body fluids, because after something decomposes, it's very hard to actually have something like that. So there's a lot of different things. It's very interesting to learn what happens when all of these things happen. Just about these people that search mines. They're part of this company that does search mines. There's just so many different things involved in this search.
Even her father, Charles Cox, they took him on one of the searches, and he had his own feelings about where he might have put her. It was feelings. It wasn't anything specific.
But sometimes that's all it takes.
Yeah. So.
At this point, that's all they can do is find her. There's nothing
they can do at this point, anything more. And unfortunately, Josh is no longer with us. fortunately or unfortunately, he's not around to give any more information. They can't interview him anymore. And I think he knew that was coming. So that's why he killed himself and his boys. I don't know why he had to take his boys with him.
Right.
But,
yeah.
It's just a shame. You know, and I was thinking, we think about all these cases that we do, and they're not finding.
I know.
I mean, we've talked about Jennifer Dulos, can't find her. We talk about
Suzanne
Morphew.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Susan Powell. It's just such an unfortunate situation for families to have to deal with this.
Right. Especially when it drags on.
And on and on. And
Yeah.
it just seems to be that way. And it does always seem to be the husbands. It's just in these particular cases.
Most of the time, they do say, detectives and the police say that it is definitely, most of the time,
Right.
it is someone close to them, especially the spouse.
Right.
Or significant other.
And I'd like to clear something up. We had mentioned, I think in our last video about Susan Powell, that her father-in-law, Steve, was getting, his impression of her was that she wanted him to have sexual advances towards her. Because she let him feel her legs and give her a back massage. And someone had commented, well, it seems like she was leading him on. And I don't believe that was the case. I think he just took it upon himself.
To go further than, you know,
know.
who doesn't just say, oh, come up behind you, ooh, and you're like, oh, that feels good. I mean, it could be anybody, and you don't take anything, you don't feel any way about it. It's just a fun kind of, when you know people and you're familiar with them, you can do that.
Well,
But he took it further.
yeah, and he would, because he was perverted.
Right.
And the leg thing, I think we had mentioned, she had just finished learning
Yeah,
how
she was
to do
learning
that.
how to do it, and she was proud of what she did. So she probably
Like
just said, feel this
Feel
one
this.
spot.
Yeah, I don't
And he probably took it upon himself to feel more. So I think they are very innocent. I don't think that that is something that, and then once her father-in-law takes it a little further, that's hard for her to be like, don't do that. You know what I mean? Like, she's probably stunned, and what the heck is going on? There's a lot more to it than just saying, leave me alone.
Right. Right. But she did
So-
eventually do that when
Yes, eventually she did.
when he was in the truck with her. You know, and he was admitting his feelings for her, and you know how
Right.
aroused he was, and
Yeah.
you know, she told him, and you know, and it was like she was, you know, hey, I'm your daughter-in-law.
Right. Just let me be that.
You know,
Yeah.
I'm
And-
one step below your daughter is how she put it.
And this is coming from his mouth. So what he interprets and what she interprets are two different things. So we don't
Exactly.
hear how Susan interpreted it. So that's the problem. We only have one side of the story.
Right. Right.
So, yeah.
So in no way did we mean to imply
No.
that she was leading him on. It was not
No.
at all.
Our intention.
No.
No.
So I guess that's really
Yeah,
the
and
gist of our update for what we know about her. Oh, and this cold podcast, you got to listen to it.
yeah.
You got to, especially the details that he gives in the search. And we'd like it because it's bringing awareness to abuse, to domestic abuse. And, you know, if you know anybody who's in that situation,
Or if you are.
yeah, please
And you see
reach
yourself.
out. Reach
Yeah.
out for help. You know, we've posted the number where, at least in the U.S., where you can call and get help.
And we'll try to post it. That's on me. I keep forgetting to do it every time, but I'll try to do it every time.
So, you know, we just want to bring that awareness out. At this point, I don't know what good it will do in finding Susan.
And that's all the family could ask for, is just to find her. That's what any family wants, is just to have closure. And without a body, or at this point it would probably be bones, it's very hard to move past and move forward and
Right.
just grieve because they're still searching, and it's
Yeah.
hard to grieve at that point.
They use the word closure. I don't know if you ever really can get closure, but at
Yeah.
least it'll give them some peace
Mm-hmm.
that they found her, and
Yes.
they know they'll have some peace in knowing what happened.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I had an opportunity to listen to another podcast where Dave, who does the cold,
Dave Cawley?
yeah, he's something. He's
Mhm.
actually a journalist.
Yes.
He did a Q&A session with Ellis Maxwell, the detective who was the lead detective on this case at the
Okay.
time, and he did it in front of a live audience.
Oh, okay.
It's very interesting, and he was questioning the detective about his thoughts on the case and things that they did, and a lot of questions about, like, why didn't they arrest him sooner, and and it's what we thought. They didn't feel they had enough to bring it in
Right.
front of a jury, but to hear it from him
Mm-hmm.
is really interesting. So
Because he was in the middle of it.
right. So if you have an opportunity to listen to that one, it's actually called, the podcast is called Cold Q&A
Okay.
Live.
Yeah. If you just look up cold, you'll find all
Oh,
of
yeah.
the episodes.
Yeah.
So. Okay, well, we will dive into episode 8 next week, and until then, bye.
Bye.